Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Welcome to the Future of Work, Water Cooler Conversations radio show and podcast, where local business leaders share how they integrate humanity and technology through innovative approaches, healthy culture, flexible workspaces, and seamless virtual technology. We are your hosts, Jennifer Burwell and Kyle McIntosh. This podcast is brought to you by Max 6, building better communities where people and businesses thrive. And first, hey, Jen, good to see you.
Hello, good to see you virtually as well. I am so excited for episode 1 of our new podcast, The Future of Work. It's an evolution from the podcast that we were doing last year to really the purpose is the same, to spotlight local community business leaders, but really talk about collectively what we think the future of work is going to look like and what leaders should be thinking about in all areas of their business so that we can come out of this 2020 stronger than ever. So we are so excited to have Scott Marsh here to kick us off with our first episode. No pressure, Scott.
Okay.
But he is our resident Max 6 trainer and the owner, founder of Mind and Body Strengthening. And there's no one else in the world that I can think of that can help provide a little bit of inspiration, motivation, and just information on how we kickstart this year. So thank you so much for being on.
Well, thank you guys for having me. And I feel very honored that I'm the first guest of the new podcast. I mean, I don't know if I can live up to that or not, but I'm going to do my best.
You better.
No, this is great. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let's just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you came from, how you got here.
Like here in Arizona?
Here in this chair you're sitting.
So I've been in the health and fitness industry for almost 28 years now. I started in physical therapy and then transitioned to personal training just by chance. I had patients that wanted to continue their therapy at home, and then over the course of maybe 5 years of doing both, I just left, the physical therapy and then fully went into training. And then, here we are today.
Here you sit.
Here I sit right now. So, but it's been a great journey. I love physical therapy. I love working in that aspect of it, outpatient orthopedics. But I think it gave me a great knowledge of what I have now to help people with, having maybe a little bit more foresight on helping them prevent injuries and in dealing with what they currently, if they do have any currently little bumps and bruises or injuries that I can help them with, that I'm capable of doing that. So I think it's been, that's been a critical part of my career. And I'm very thankful for it. I worked with a great deal of people there, very smart people. I'm very fortunate. And I've been very blessed to have the clients that I've had throughout my life. And, I couldn't ask for anything better. So.
What if you back it up a little bit to, at some point you were a kid growing up and what did that look like? And it led to this interest in and career in health and fitness.
So, it was never planned. I grew up on a farm and, I figured out early that I loved it, but that's not what I wanted to do because there's a lot of work and very little money for if you're going to have a small operation. So that really wasn't going to be my future, even though I loved it. And so, going to college was a way to exit that. So I told my dad, I said, hey, I'm going to go to college. I want to play football. Oh, who's going to help me milk the cows and bale the hay? I said, well, we'll figure that out, but I'm going. But yeah, so got that done and didn't really anticipate working in a physical therapy clinic. I knew I was maybe going to go towards more of a corporate fitness setting, but one of my friends who graduated a semester ahead of me got a job at this clinic and there was an opening, got it. And then, I think it was critical. That was a critical point in my life right there. And then also my stepdad and I have, numerous friends that are on are police officers. And then what I realized was after a while, just looking at the effect of what that profession has on people, that, they're dealing with people on their not so good days and, their interaction with them. And by going to work, what I was doing, I was getting people on the other side of looking people are wanting your help, wanting to get better. They're engaging with you as a much happier side. And to me, that really reinforced that I made a right decision to pursue what I was doing, because I really enjoy helping people, but, people want my help too. So that's kind of...
I think that comes... Oh, sorry, Kyle. I think that comes through so much in your training with people is you light up when you see that you can help someone, but they have to meet you in the middle, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to force a horse to drink water, whatever that saying is. You will go to the ends of the earth to help someone as long as they can meet you in the middle. And I think that really translates with everybody that you work with. And I think that's a unique that you really offer along with all of your expertise. So I think you definitely have a giver's, helper's heart.
Oh, thank you.
Before we move on from going back there to being a kid, I have a question for both of you. And I think Jen and I have talked about this before a little bit, but I'm interested. What did you think you would be? What did you want to be when you were a kid?
When I was little, I just never, you guys might think this is crazy, but I really didn't leave the farm when I was little. We lived out, 5 miles from town. It was very rural. I didn't really see a lot of people. I have a big extended family. I just, Grandpa and Grandma lived with us, and, I just never really thought about what I was going to be later. I wasn't like the fireman, policeman thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Just going to be on the farm. But then, as you get older, you get into high school, and, you look at other kids and they're like, oh, you're ready to go to college? I'm like, what, really? So I had to figure it out. And so I did it all. I essentially figured it all by myself, engaging with other people's parents and helping me because my dad wasn't helping. So that was it.
Yeah.
So and then I went to college, and then I thought I wanted to be a business major. Didn't really I took a semester of stuff like that. No, transferred to the health and physical education, and it just clicked. I just retained that information, verbatim. I just soaked it up. I was fortunate again. I had really good instructors. The university I went to had just built all new facilities. So we had an amazing, kinesiology lab, biomechanics lab. We were set up, and it was so much fun. And it was I really enjoyed it. So that kind of triggered it. And so it was, I guess by chance, maybe I could have been a philosophy major. I don't know.
That's part of what I ask. And Jen, I'm interested in your answer too. But I don't think any of us probably are doing what we wanted to do, in quotes, wanted to do as a kid,
Yeah.
The policeman, fireman thing. But all of us seem to be enjoying the hell out of what we're doing right now and helping people. And so it's an interesting, I love to see what kids want to be, but it is almost by chance. What do you see that clicks all of a sudden? You're like, whoa, that works. I love that. Yeah.
So Scott, I have a couple of questions about that story. One, I'm embarrassed that I don't know the answer to this, but do you have any brothers or sisters or any siblings?
I have half sisters.
Half sisters?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were the son on the farm and you were leaving to go to college. That seems like a big step. Can you think of, other than just peripherally hearing about college, was there one person or anything that really just sparked that curiosity of hey, more than curiosity, that I can do this and that's my path? What helped guide you there?
Well, I have my dad comes from 9 brothers and sisters, and he was one of the older, but his oldest brother was a football coach, Hall of Fame high school football coach, not only for the state of Michigan, but he got inducted to the National Hall of Fame. And, he was a teacher. He taught phys ed. And then my aunt, she was also a teacher. So they lived an hour and a half from us. And so we'd see them during the holidays and things like that. And, they're just, I think they planted the seed early, of education and, not really saying you should do this, but you should do this. And then, I just think over time, and then seeing my friends, but then my football coach, who is a very, very domineering kind of personality, crazy, but when he talks, you just listen. And he commanded a lot of respect, but he's usually right. And so yeah, he had his input too, and he was more forthright, but and he helped obviously by getting us out there and taking us and going on tours and things like that. But I think between those two and just knowing that's not really what I wanted to be. I had to do something, and I didn't want to stay and, work construction or do something. I wanted to, do something more, because I see, like, in our community that, like, it went nowhere. And, college was an exit to, something better. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I love these shows that we do, because Scott, we were talking about this earlier, like, we've known each other for over 5 years, but I didn't know any of this. So it's such a great time. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, sure.
Cal, were you going to ask a question, or did you ask me a question?
What did you want to be when I grow up? I want to be.
Oh, I was sure I was going to be a teacher, to the point where I had like lesson plans, and I would force my siblings and my sister mostly, in a room and not let them leave. And then I had them convinced that if they left, I was going to write a letter to a referral to the principal, and they were going to be in trouble. It was really more like hostage situation. And as I was sharing this with somebody recently, they were like, it wasn't teaching, it was control that you really wanted. And perhaps
that's pretty funny.
That could be very true. But as I grew, I learned that I love children. I love my own children, but not a teacher. 2020 has definitely taught me I am not a teacher.
It's just fascinating to me that, like, it's a recurring thing that comes up on this show. Like, where did you grow up? And you're sitting here, and something happened in between that you got interested in this. And it's almost never like, oh, I was going to start this company, and when I was 5, I knew I was going to start that company. But it's sort of this it was like, how did you grow up, which informed your work ethic and your motivations and I want some power, but I also want to educate, and which thing's more important? Or I grew up on a farm, and like, I'm interested too. Like, what do you carry with you today from that background is almost more important than I was certain as a kid I was going to be either one of 3 things: a lawyer, an architect, or a garbage man. On equal footing. And I was like, those 3 are the best careers out there. They seem like the coolest things. I'm going to go do one of those. None of which I'm doing today, but I'm glad I'm not. But like, how I grew up still informs what I bring to work every day, or to my life every day.
Yeah.
It's like, growing up on a farm, like, there must be carry through today of things that you learn, work ethic, whatever it is. What is some?
Well, yeah, days are a lot shorter now. You're not, get up and doing chores before you go to school, go to football practice, come home, split wood, do that, do chores again. And, work is, that was work. Like, working now is not work. This is fun. This is easy. This is like nothing, because, it's just different. But doing all those days and doing all that stuff, it's instilled in you to, get your butt out of bed and go do something. Be productive. Things have to be done. And, that sticks with you forever. That doesn't leave, at least for me. So
I have a funny story. My best friend is from Minnesota, from Marshall, Minnesota. And her dad has a huge farm, dairy farm. And she was the oldest. And then she had, I think, 4 younger sisters. And then finally they had a son at the very end. So he was a baby. So she was like the head of the house, doing all the work. And so she would come home for harvest. When she was in college, she would even go back for harvest. And then when she worked she was an interior designer in Phoenix, and she would have to fly home to Marshall, Minnesota to do harvest in harvest time. And so we became really good friends. And one time, right when I bought my first new house, I wanted to do like some remodeling stuff. And so we're talking about it. I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about painting a wall, and I don't know, maybe I'll do this and that. She literally, I don't even remember what I did. I went somewhere and I came back. She had all the paint. She was ready to go. And then she was painting for like 15 hours. And I couldn't even last for 4. And she was like, I don't know, what's the problem? You just keep moving. Come on, drink more coffee. Let's go. And so I love that about her so much, is that her work ethic, hands down, is not matchable. And so I see the same thing in you. And also the grip that you have on your hands and the way that you can get like knots out of muscles, that has to be some way correlated to your farm life.
You use your hands a lot. Like milking cows makes your hands very strong.
That's every time I introduce Scott to a group, I tell he's the founder and owner of Mind and Body Strengthening. He's the on-site trainer at Max 6, and he's got mitts like a bear.
That have come in handy.
No, that's funny.
So, Scott, one of the reasons we wanted to bring you on is we wanted to talk about the future of work and what we see going forward, and try to bring in some of the best minds to think about what are some things we should be considering as we build this new normal. And so what trends have you seen in the fitness industry in the last year? And then what do you think is going to go forward into the future?
Okay. I think in the current situation, I think home fitness seems to be, I shouldn't say catching on, but, is a good thing because people are doing something. Even though gyms are open, limited capacity. Some people are going to go to the gym and that's it. Whether they don't have the space at home, they need to go to the gym. They don't want to make the investment because it can be a great investment. So I think, moving forward, I think both will be there. I think, at least for another maybe year or so. And then there's probably going to be a lot of deals on Craigslist of exercise equipment for home. Because I think people are going to want to go back to the gyms because of the social aspect, just maybe the variety of equipment, and also if they need help. And probably one of my biggest fears for people at home, they'll look up on YouTube or do whatever, is just, poor form, or if they have an existing condition, they don't know how to address it properly. It could get bad, or they may not get out of the workouts what they should because they don't know. So I hope that doesn't happen, but I'm sure it probably will. But I think, for the near future right now, people will probably, home gyms are going to be, popular. And then when the indication that'll probably be when you can start buying equipment again online or ordering stuff, that's probably going to be a signal.
The gyms are going to be more full when that starts happening.
And also and then in New York, and there was a gym owner, and I can't remember what part of New York he was in, but he's in the city of New York because is de Blasio the mayor? No. Yeah. So they sued the city and sued him, and they won. They took it all the way to the New York Supreme Court, and they won. And the judge said that he can open at 100% capacity and return into some sort of normalcy. It's time. So that really put I think a foothold on future rulings of what's going to happen for the future of fitness. Because this guy put it all out there and he fought him, and, he won. Obviously they still have to follow precautions and, things like that, but he can open 100% capacity. So I think that's a good indication.
Sorry, Scott.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Related to that in my mind is the statistic that you shared in our Zoom call a little bit before this that was staggering about the amount of time that we stay inside.
Yeah. So the study was that 90% of people's time is spent inside, and then another 3 to 5% is spent in a vehicle. So that's 95% of your time is inside something, not being outside. And that's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So that's not good. And the article that I got those statistics from was an article talking about air quality inside buildings and your home. And, it's all about filtration and how much airflow exchange. And it was a very detailed report. It was pretty cool. But that statistic really stuck to me that of how important it is for, air conditions, but people just need to go outside, get out. We live in, especially for Arizona, this time of year, you cannot sell this. This is the best place. So, I feel fortunate we have our Fit Trail outside. We can be outside. It's really nice out. And it's just a different experience, I think, getting people outside and doing that.
Yeah, I think that's so if people are going to use their home gyms or stay home, I think that's the takeaway I took from it is that's great and good. Continue to do that or get active however you can, but also get outside. There was the other day I was walking to get my mail and I hadn't been outside all day because I'm attached to my computer working away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it is the most beautiful day today. Our weather is gorgeous. It's in the 70s and it feels like such a waste. So that is such a good reminder that even if you're doing some weights or watching a YouTube video or whatever you're doing, for Arizona at least.
So you guys have your gym at home in your garage. Open the garage door. Just open it up. Go outside. Do some stuff in the driveway.
Then our neighbors can see us.
Your neighbors may want to join you.
You'll be inspiring.
Yeah.
There we go.
And the benefits of getting the sun, vitamin D, it just makes you feel better. I mean, there's so much, good that comes from that. And we should be taking advantage of it.
You and I, Scott, were talking the other day about something I've been thinking a lot about, which is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and how we've gotten into a weird place with society where we're so well covered for the most part, a lot of us in this country anyways, with like food, water, shelter. And we are sort of having to find our place now with social media and all this other stuff of like, what does it mean to get love and connection? And what does it mean that you can be in your house all day, your shelter from the outside. You can have food. You never have to leave. You can have food delivered to your door and work out at your home gym. But what are you missing out on in this human experience that, like, by having it so well covered, you don't ever have to experience hardship or go outside or the sun or any of these elements that, like, we were meant to be a part of our lives.
Yeah.
So how do we reintroduce those things back into our lives when we don't have to now?
Right.
Because we're missing a big part of something that we were meant to have in our lives.
Well, if you're an introvert, this has been the best thing ever. This is probably like, yes, lock it down, because then I don't have to worry about like being forced to go out to do something. But beside that, I think the social interaction, humans, we want to be with other people. And, I think we need that to be healthy. I think we need that interaction. Being locked up in your house and, in your cave is, that's, very isolating. And that can, I think, can lead to lots of bad things. And, I think, just getting out and engaging, whether you go for a walk, you see your neighbors, you come to work for a little bit. I don't know, whatever you're comfortable with, but I think the interaction is much more, healthier mentally than probably people realize. And they don't even probably know it yet. But I think like a lot of these companies are maybe, okay, just work from home. We're not going to have anything. We're going to get rid of our offices. Everybody can work from home. I don't know. And that may change after a while because, now people are going to be working probably more because they're going to be working their drive time home. More, they're going to be more productive, but, they don't have the water cooler break. They're not going to go and talk about the game. They're not going to run into somebody in the hallway and, talk about fantasy football or, any of that kind of stuff. And I think that's a huge aspect of, of human nature. We need that, go ahead, Jen.
I'm sorry, Scott.
It's okay.
Talking over you.
It's okay. That's right.
I was just totally agreeing with your point that upon reflecting in the last year, which I've been working from home since March, it is those moments. That's what I've missed with our team is, when I'm beating Kyle terribly in fantasy football.
You're speaking to the league champion in fantasy football this year.
Being able to run in or, our team, every time you jump on a Zoom call or you're doing a meeting, it's very agenda focused and driven. And like, this is what we're here to accomplish. But it's all those small moments and the water cooler moments that you're missing that I think is going to be the next challenge of how do we balance safety and health and wellness with human connection. But I also think that relates to health and wellness, right? There's so many people who are more motivated when they can be collectively in a group. I know that I always do better when I'm like with a group. I have accountability. And the other piece of it is it's similar to like the human interaction. You don't really know that you're missing it until like either you experience it. Like we just had a community call that you led, Scott, an hour ago. And the feedback was, wow, I just enjoy connecting with other community members and just communicating. And I think that's the same thing with exercise is, at least for me, my experience is it's wonderful when it's over. And you don't realize how much you need it until you've had it. And so without that social element, I wonder what the long-term sustainability of, all of this is, but individual workouts.
So I like with my little girl, Maggie, she's an 8th grader. And so they were at, home remotely for school for, however long. And she my wife works from home and she has for a long time. So like nothing really changed for her except for like now me and Maggie were home. And, So then she moved her office downstairs to the kitchen table to be around us, because now we're there, even though she didn't allow us to talk because she's on the phone, but we were still there. We're getting shushed all the time and turn the TV down or do this, whatever. But she was just like, oh my, like I could tell she was happier by us being there. But I could see over time, Maggie was not happy because she was not with her friends and she wasn't at school. And, she didn't have, like for PE, and it wasn't enough to take, daddy taking her out and playing football or, doing stuff. I mean, she needed to play with her friends. And when they were allowed to return to school, immediately her mood changed. I could tell she was happier. She knew she was happier. And I think for me, that was a small case study of a larger picture of what is, society, what it is. Because I think a lot of her friends were that way too.
What do you, I'm trying to think of how to even phrase this question. I'm not sure. So let's see what comes out of my mouth.
Okay.
We talked about like the role of being like working out with people, being in a space where it's this social thing, as well as the benefits you're getting from the exercise. You are able to, from all of your experience, tell me, put your arm like this, not like this, for doing a bicep curl.
Yeah.
But I think another part of it too is that you're able to understand motivations beyond just that bicep curl is going to make my bicep stronger, but by doing it in this environment, I'll be more social. But also, like, I'm curious how much you go into, like, what do you want out of this? Like, I think I should work out at the gym because I'm supposed to. And so I feel like I have to go to the gym versus, like, I want to be around when my kids get older. I want to look good in front of the mirror with my shirt off. Like,
right.
Whatever that is, like, how much of that is brought into what you do all the time?
I mean, that's, that has to drive it all. Because otherwise, like, why are we here? And, if you're just here to go through the motions and you're going to be, 6 weeks of, I need to get ready for this, then, I can't, that's not really who I'm looking for. And because I'm looking for people that are long-term, that want to make changes in their life to sustain for life, to play with their kids, play with their grandkids, and I've had many older patients, all of a sudden one day that I get a call like, oh my God, I can't get off the freaking toilet. Because they don't have the leg strength. And, they like, well, I walk every day. Well, I'm sorry, but walking really doesn't do it. You got to start bending your knees and your hips. And so, now it's catch up or, bone density for, young females to need to establish bone density early in life, work on maintaining it because it's easier to maintain as they get older in life, then, especially if they have a history of osteoporosis. So there's all these reasons. So, sometimes it takes a little bit of digging to find out why people want to do that. And sometimes they don't even know, they just know that they should. But, we got to try to frame it so they have a purpose to keep showing up and to do it. And, if it just starts off like you just feel better at the end of a workout, you know what, we'll take it. But how's that going to translate? I spend a lot, some of my day, like I already had a phone call today with one of my clients. She's having a rough go, her and the mother-in-law. I mean, like, and she's falling off the wagon. She's been eating like crap. She's starting to put all her weight back on. I'm like, oh my God. So I had like a 45-minute call with her. She's in a parking lot somewhere. Like, I'm assuming she had a cake in front of her, but I don't know. But, but people need to like, deal with, there's lots of issues out there that drive it. Food is people's friend a lot and, bad habits. And so we just got to like work on like what's going on in their life, where are they going, why they want to get there, and then just try to help them get there in some manner, and have fun along the way because it's exercise, and we should have a good time. And it should be like the best part of your day. That's my goal, to have fun and leave you better than what you showed up at. So that's the goal. So is that kind of what you're, okay.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And I think, Scott, you came across something that you offer your clients that is really helpful to help them not only discover their why or their purpose, but to build those sustainable practices. So if you can talk to us a little bit about precision nutrition and kind of why you like it and how it helps your clients, I think that would be really helpful because that does get to the core of really that sustainable, what are you going to do every day?
Yeah. So with precision nutrition, I mean, it was something I had longed for a long time. And then I finally came across it, watched it for at least a year or so, watch the guy who started it, listen to him. And then it was just like, okay, this is like really like good stuff. They do a lot of research on, human behavior. It's all, scientifically based. The habits are based on, science of habit change and human behavior. So they're not arbitrarily just thrown out there. So they're put in a way that's going to help people establish those habits. So you get an email every day, a new habit every 2 weeks. Some habits you return to reinforce, but it just takes a few minutes a day. You start your day off with it. You just read it. Some of it you have some input back into of answering some questions of whatever they may be asking. And then I also get, when you save it, I get that information. So then now I kind of know where you're at and I can engage with you and kind of follow up and make the accountability part of it trigger. Because, even though people will provide that information, sometimes they need more context on why it is and helping them figuring out of why they answered it that way. Because they might just be going through the motion. Oh, I just got to answer it, put it down. But then when they get questioned about it, sometimes that's a little bit more depth and there's more benefit to that. So, it's a year-long program and they believe it takes 9 months to change habits. If you follow their, what they're saying. So you got 9 months and then you have a few months afterwards to really ingrain those. And then, and then the hope is not all habits are going to stick, but there's a base of habits, like 3 or 4 that you want people to stick with, that are constantly reinforced, that they can always go back to. And that still happens today after a couple years. I've had a couple people, they always go back to the foundational ones. Chewing slowly, 80% full. I mean, those are 2 of the biggest ones. And those you can never go wrong on. You can never forget those. Those are easy to remember, and they're easy to cue. So those can get you easily back on track, and you can get some benefit out of it. And then that can lead to other things too.
What do you say to, we're talking about, like, on this podcast in general, like the future of work, and how does this have to do with the future of work? Because I think you asked the right question in something you said is like, then what are we here for? Like, that's the right question. What are we here for? Why are we here? Yeah. And so from asking that question, like, how would you're working with Team Logic downstairs as a team. Like, what does the future of work look like? I think it's bringing your whole self to work, right? And that being like who you want to be, what do you want to do? Why are you here? Do you see any difference of like working with a company like that and like, hey, here's the value proposition of why your company should get involved versus like I come to you individually and say I want to do something? I mean, is there any difference at all, or is it all just working with those individuals?
Well, I think statistically, when companies are doing a corporate challenge, you may get 10% participation. Not everyone's going to participate. And that comes from, I think, leadership. Because, as a whole, if they're not doing it at the top and they're not making the decisions and they're not leading by example, people that are looking up to that person, it's not going to happen. So I think that's very important. So Lee, I'm talking about Lee.
Oh, Lee Benson.
Lee Benson.
Yep.
So he had it figured out. So he had a 10,000 square foot gym put in his facility. He had 500 employees. He had locker rooms put in, and he had the motivation put out there for health insurance. So if you did 3 workouts a week, and the workouts were all structured, you couldn't go to the gym by yourself. You had to go through a group led with his trainers program because they had it all laid out. And so if you did 3 a week for the month, he covered 100% of the health insurance costs. If you didn't, then you were responsible for your 20%, and it would change month to month. So you had a chance, so it wasn't all the time. And he also offered that to the families. They could come and work out with the kids and whatever, but that was something different. But he said it was saving him $1 million a year.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's like, if it didn't save me money, I wouldn't do it. But he's like, I'm saving the money, not only because they're participating, but less missed work on time, less injuries. The culture and the atmosphere are much more positive around here. And also too, like he said, like he was working out himself, and because you're working out with people at all different levels in the company, janitors, engineers, I don't know, whatever. And so he was working with a girl that worked in his admin office, which was huge. but he never really had a chance to talk to her. By working out next to her, he found out that she had a passion for, I don't know, X. And he's like, wow, I never knew that. So he talked to her direct supervisor. They did, some stuff. They got her reassigned, put her in a role. And she thrived. But she never would have said anything or came to him because she didn't want to seem ungrateful. But it was just a general conversation, relaxed atmosphere. And he's like, and that's happened a lot. I don't know what a lot means, but, enough to where it was a benefit for him to have that or to find out what's going on in the company. So I think when you get a higher participation rate, the leadership is participating. I think that's key. Otherwise, people are just kind of maybe going through the motion.
Yeah.
But I think, the more that people can participate and there's, a slight competitive to it. Some people are more competitive. Some people don't like to be, but I think if you can kind of meet in the middle a little bit and get people engaged, get them rolling where they can have some fun with it, that's got to be you got to have fun with it. And it can't be so burdensome that it's not, because people aren't going to do it.
That's the fascinating thing to me with conscious capitalism is this sort of endless debate on, is it the money the most important thing that you're saving because you're doing this initiative? Or is it the good thing that you're doing by getting people to be healthier? And it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Are they both aligned and doing the same thing? It doesn't matter what your motivation is. Even if Lee is only motivated by saving $1 million, cool.
Yeah.
He's still affecting all these people's lives, including his own and his business in a positive direction.
And their families.
And their families.
Yeah. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, I agree.
Yeah. And he also participated.
I think it's an interesting thing because I see it in you a lot, is that I think when people hear fitness trainer, they think unapproachable. If they're new to it, if they don't know, they haven't been to the gym in a while, if they've been to a gym where the people are super aggressive and trying to sell them something or whatever, but you're very approachable, whether it's, and we'll talk about some of the programs that you do with the gym, like whether it's these younger kids you're training or people that work at Max 6 or older people that are very approachable. I mean, it makes Lee more approachable as a business leader to be just working out alongside someone.
Yeah.
I'm just another person becoming healthier, working on myself next to you. I'm not CEO of this 500-person company that you have to cut through red tape to come have a conversation.
We're all breathing the same air.
Right.
Yeah.
Guys, we should pitch this to Undercover Boss. This is their next season. Every company has to put a gym in their company, and then the CEO just works out. And then I guess he'd have to be disguised, but we can figure that out. But I think this is a great concept.
But people are relaxed in the gym. Like, we were talking earlier, Jen, like for me personally, when I'm in the gym, I'm working out, my mind just opens up. It's free. Lots of ideas come. You can just relax. And, it's a good feeling. And so I'm sure that happens a lot. And you can find out lots of stuff.
So I have 3 questions for you, and I'm sure Kyle has a bunch more.
Okay, shoot.
My first question is, do you have clients that you work with that are consistent, that they just show up all the time, they don't fall off, they're like your perfect students?
Yep.
Okay, so what do they do that those of us that are not so perfect, like what's the difference between them and people who have a more difficult time?
Well, I can tell you I have one client that I had in Michigan that I started with him in physical therapy. So that was essentially like at the beginning of my career. And he actually lives in Arizona now. He moved here right before I did. So I've been training him for 24 years or something. And when we first started off, it was 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 5:30. It was a 5 or 5:30 a.m. I was at his house. And now it's 3 days a week. And he has, even now with Zoom, whatever, it's on the schedule. It never varies. It's always the same. I just put it in my calendar forever. And he only lets me when he knows when he's not going to be there. Otherwise, I'm there.
But like,
so what motivates him to do that?
Yeah. Or how to do you have observations about people who are more successful with achieving consistency compared to those that struggle?
For him, it's just, He's schedule orientated. He's busy all the time. He has phone call to phone call, meeting to meeting to meeting. This is just part of it. And I've had other people they're back in Michigan, other CEOs that were friends of his that were exactly the same. But I don't think that comes just because you're a CEO. I think that's because they just schedule it, they're dedicated to it, and they're not going to change it because, he wants to continue to play tennis until the day he dies. He loves tennis. He has a very rare neck condition that needs to be managed. So that's another motivation for him. He has become one of my good friends. So we have lots of fun. I'm training his daughter now. So, and she's essentially the same as him. So she's on the schedule. It's going to be that way unless she tells me that she's not going to be there. So I don't know what drives them over other people besides maybe they just have their schedule. And some people are more, I don't know, Jen. I don't know if it's more freelance or if it's personality. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I feel like you hit it on the head for me in what you were saying is it's kind of it is what we say at Max 6 and what we talk about all the time is having clarity on your why or your purpose. Like I have a hypothesis, I have nothing to back this up in this context, that if you have clarity on why you want to show up, you're probably much more likely to show up consistently. And when it's something beyond that, like I want to look good on vacation or, those are fine goals. But when it's like a deeper long-term purpose.
But, and I also think too, like his assistant, like everybody knows this time he's working out. Nothing changes. Don't ever schedule anything. Don't ask me. We're working out. That's my time. And I think he never allows, and I can think of the other guys too. They've never allowed that time to be infringed upon. It's very rarely. Unless he's on a call and it's got, whatever. But I can tell you this in this last year, it's happened less than on one hand.
Wow.
It's the motivation thing. We just made it past New Year's, right? And all the New Year's resolutions that you typically hear. I want to weigh X. I want to stop eating X. I want to eat more of X. But you don't hear I want to be able to play tennis when I'm 75 years old.
No, there's no long-term goal.
So what are those things that people say is an important part in my life? Not just because I want to drop 20 pounds right now because I feel like I should because it's New Year's. But in 20 years from now, what I'm doing today is going to consistently follow through because I want this to be a part of my life. Yeah.
I think that may come with a little bit of age because when you're younger, you feel like you can do anything. But I'll just have a side note, unless you're really heavy or something's happened to you that it's like been like a real awakening. But for most people, when they're younger, they just feel like they can do it because they're young. Their hormones are at the top of their their peak. Life is easy. But as time goes on or you get an injury, then realization sets in and it's like, okay, I need to get my shit together.
Yeah.
And I got to be focused. But I can say that even when I worked in physical therapy, people would have major back surgery, and they'll go through therapy. And then we had a very extensive home program. Okay, where are you going to work out when you're done with this? Okay, we're going to work out at home. Okay, this is what you should do. Blah, 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 blah. And we would cover the last few weeks of the therapy, practice our home exercises, go over all the stuff. It was like it was an amazing clinic. But I can tell you, after they were discharged, some of those people were back a year later. And they're just like, oh, I have to keep this up forever? That was all covered. And they start having back issues again, or they start having nerve pain again. And then it took a second time for them to realize, it's real. They're like a lifetime management position of that injury. But we should all be in a lifetime management position of our body because it's only one.
Yeah.
We don't get another one. And if you mess up the first one, our body is amazing because it takes so much abuse and it can still bounce back and you can still move forward. And I think, I think the human body is truly amazing in that the abuse it can take, and we got to take better care of it. And in sitting in chairs and just grinding and grinding for work and work and work. People have to make money, but what good is it going to do if you can't go out and go ride your bike or play with your kids or kick the ball around or, like earlier in our call with Eddie and, it's gotten away from him. He was a college athlete and now he's got a little 8-year-old. I'm sure that 8-year-old wants to play soccer and kick the ball around, but he's got to get back into it. And that can drive them. So
Scott, I think we all most of us set big, lofty goals in January.
Yep.
And then we fail miserably by February. And then I think there's a lot of guilt and shame and self-talk and all these things that happen in our head when we aren't successful. When in reality, perhaps we didn't set ourselves up for success, and there could be a whole bunch of stuff there. So I guess I have a two-part question is, when you do fall off this health wagon, what should be your next step? How do you get back on the wagon? And then the next thing is, the second part of the question is, are there a few tips that you could give us on how do you set yourself up for success when you're setting a goal?
So to answer your second part first is you got to figure out, like we talked about earlier, like, why are you doing it? Why are you doing this? Why are you going to show up? Why are you putting the time in? That has to be defined. And then that can drive you forward. So even in, like, with your first part of your question, people are setting off, their New Year's resolution goals. Whenever I hear someone say they set out their New Year's resolution goals, I know it's going to be over and it's worthless because they're not going to finish it because they're already telling me it's a short term, as opposed to like when they go on a diet or whatever. It's all short term. So the biggest part of success is figuring out your why and then just, take a tidbit. So if you do make a New Year's resolution, how can you just take part of that and extend it, for a year or whatever? Or if you need to make a goal, like I want to, run a race, compound that for another, 6 months away out or something. If you need to have a goal, make something out there that's going to make you work towards something. And then if you got to keep doing that, then keep doing that and just keep leapfrogging it, because that'll help build consistency and that'll keep you on track if you need something to focus on. So not everyone can just show up and just work out and be happy. If you don't have something to work towards, it's pretty tough to help somebody get there. So the tidbit, I would just take a small piece and try to focus on it, get back on track, whether it's, okay, I'm going to just eliminate sugar part of the week, or I'm going to limit my portions, or I'm going to eat slowly today, or, anything like that, just to get you back on track, get your mind working again, focusing on moving forward. Don't worry about, what's happened in the past, or you fell off the wagon. Doesn't matter. It's history. Move forward. Make the correction.
I like it. I think that's one thing that I know even myself personally is when I'm working with you, I'm doing great, but then I have an off day or I don't do what I say I'm going to do. You feel so guilty. And so then that guilt, you go, at least for me, go to avoidance, versus what I've so appreciated about you is at any moment, at any time, when I've been willing to come back to you and say, I didn't make my commitment, but I'm ready to recommit. You're there with open arms and you have that same attitude of all right, well, let's just not focus on the past and let's just focus on what we can move forward. So I think I would encourage anyone who has that experience or feels that to just take some deep breaths when you hear the self-talk coming in, realize that we can't do anything about the past, and then just what can we do to move forward. And then one quickly other piece that I wanted to add, that I wanted to share. I was listening to a podcast about habits and how they form. And they said, it was interesting. They've done this study and it's been replicated a couple of times that if a gym is 3.5 miles from someone's house, they are likely to go to that gym if they have a membership 3 times a week. If the gym is 5 miles from their house, they will go 1 time a week. And they talk a lot about resistance and how you have to if you're wanting to build a positive habit, you've got to make it as easy as possible for yourself and setting systems up. So the researcher, I was laughing because I literally do this, is she said, sleep in your running clothes if you go running in the morning so that when you wake up, you have no excuse. And so I do that and I sleep in my running clothes every night. But literally, it's so much easier when I get up. So I don't know if you have any additional thoughts, but I thought you might be interested in.
Yeah. So the mileage thing, if it's not convenient, people aren't going to do it. It's got to be easy. It's got to be, if it's, as humans, we always look for the path of least resistance. And, obviously more, 5 miles is a resistance for people to drive to the gym as a, statistically, so whatever. But if it's not convenient, it's not easy, people are going to struggle to do that. So Jen, for you to walk out in your garage should be very easy to exercise. Here at Max 6, the gym is literally right below us. So people that come to work should work out. There's a shower. I mean, you guys have made it so easy for this community to do this. We have the outside facilities now. So I think in this community, convenience is not, I don't want to hear it. And, but if, like a lot of people, if they work here and they drive by Lifetime on the way home, they drive by, they can just pull in. It's convenient. They can work out. They live a couple blocks away, then they're home. They can just pack their bags. So yeah, I totally agree with that because it's been stated for a long time. If it's not easy and convenient, people aren't going to do it.
So we probably have about enough time for our couple extra special questions I want to make sure we get to, which I always preface by saying they have nothing to do with anything other than our own interests, and we're compiling answers.
Okay.
So I'll start with mine. What is your favorite book of all time?
My favorite book. I can't remember the name of it.
Okay.
But I probably read it 20 years ago. So this was a while ago, but it was kind of a futuristic book. And it was about computer espionage.
Huh.
And I have that book somewhere in my house in a box, and I've wanted to reread it, but I have yet to find it. I know it's somewhere, but I loved that book. It was so like I could envision it. Like I could see it. Like it was so well written. And
Was it fiction or nonfiction or?
Oh, it was fiction.
Fiction.
But I mean, probably today, it's not fiction.
It's not fiction anymore.
But it was like the characters were amazing. And I just I couldn't put it down. Seriously.
Very cool.
And it was just like one of these things. I was at the grocery store. I was like, oh, this book looks kind of cool. And I'm like, oh, this looks really good. And I took it home. I started reading it. I couldn't put it down. And that was it. It's been my favorite book. So.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I'm sorry I don't have a name for you.
It's fine. I'm endlessly fascinated by people's answers to this question.
So for my question, what's one thing that you've learned last year, so used to saying this year, that you plan to carry forward into 2021?
What have I learned? In any aspect of life?
Yeah.
Work, whatever? Or are we talking about work here since this is a work podcast?
No, any life lesson.
I learned that, transitioning from people to Zoom workouts was easier than I thought. Mm-hmm. And I think, and I'm going to go back to my days of physical therapy, and this may be just a little bit within me too, because I think, being able to watch somebody and critique them and watch for poor form or correct form or help them do something, you can do that on Zoom, even though there's some loss if you don't have some hands-on, connection with them. But I thought it was pretty good. I'm, proud of all my people that did Zoom and for trying it and sticking with it. I thought it was a good experience. I thought, we did the community one here. I thought it was fun. I thought it went well.
Yeah.
So I think there's something to grow on that. And I think, and as I shared with Kyle this morning, Steve gave me a compliment that I'm in the 70th percentile for technology knowledge. So I feel for my age, as he says.
No.
Yeah.
So I was going to say that is a high compliment coming from him.
I know. And so I feel I have a little bit of room for improvement, but I think I'm doing okay. So I feel my tech skills are okay this year.
So we have a couple minutes left. I don't want to end this without asking you to at least quickly talk about the New Warrior program.
Okay. So unfortunately, the New Warrior program this year has been a little slow because of just everything that's going on. But the New Warrior program is a program for people that are going into the service and they need help in preparation for their physical and their nutrition going into it, whether they need to lose weight, get in shape, get prepared for the tests that they're going to have to enter boot camp And I try to provide some of these skills and nutrition knowledge. I use some of the basis from precision nutrition so they can use this for a lifetime. And we had great success with that. I've had, I think almost like 200 people go through the program. From all my feedback and my knowledge, I think I had very good results with it in preparing these kids. They also, made friends while they were in the program, because a lot of these kids don't know each other, or when they go to their meetings, they don't really talk to each other because they're just sitting there and they have to listen to their, superiors or whatever. So they don't get to interact with each other. So they made friendships in addition to, changing, some of their physical aspects and their nutrition eating. And so that program worked out great. There was no charge for them to do this. I just asked for a commitment, hey, I'm giving you my time. I'm expecting it back, and, don't waste my time.
Well, thank you for continuing to do this. And it's always, I always love coming in there. And the way I describe it is these kids that are about to go get their asses kicked at boot camp, and he kicks their asses before they get their asses kicked. But I always enjoy seeing them in there and working hard and seeing the results and like, what does that mean for our country and the bigger picture? And that's awesome.
And I also, some of these kids I'm still in touch with, even after a few years, and their wives, because, I allowed their wives to come. So I felt, having somebody else in their household, having their, spouse be part of it was really helped, strengthen that aspect of it and keep them motivated. But I think it a couple of the wives, they were, they changed, and I'm very proud of them. So, I still hear from them. They're still doing their exercise. They're still working out. They're still doing stuff. So I think we did a good thing there.
That's awesome.
And we'll continue to do it.
Definitely.
So can you tell anybody listening how we can find you online?
So you can find me online. You can go to my website, mindandbodystrengthening.com, and there's a contact form there. You can contact me through there. You can email me at scott@mindandbodystrengthening. Just shoot me an email, and I'll get back to you.
And you're accepting new clients outside of Max 6, inside of Max 6?
Yeah, whoever needs some help.
Okay, good.
Well, thank you, Scott Marsh, for being on our show, the founder and owner of Mind and Body Strengthening. It was, as always, great to talk to you.
Yes, thank you guys, and I'm so lucky to be the first guest. I hope that has some meaning someday. When we look back, I wish I could have been the first one.
It already has a meaning in my book.
Oh, thank you, Jen.
Thank you for listening to the Future of Work Water Cooler Conversations radio show and podcast with your hosts, Jennifer Burwell and Kyle McIntosh. We are off to continue building better communities where people and businesses thrive and shining a light on local business leaders who are defining what a healthy and productive workplace looks like in Arizona and beyond. To be a part of the conversation, join us for a tour of the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center in Tempe, Arizona. Go to max6.com.